A lot of people are using AI the wrong way to build products, and the results are always AI slop. In this workflow, I will show you in detail how to use AI as your professional UI designer, while you act as a project manager. You're gonna see how I'm using AI in whole new ways at every step of the project, but without letting it lead. I'm not gonna let AI make decisions. AI will execute for you, but it will not take the lead. The goal here is to maintain the full benefits of AI without losing the human touch and the core goal. We're gonna go from ideation to UI design, then building a design system, and finally building a prototype with a full handoff package. My name is Jad. I test AI tools all day, every day to bring you workflows that actually work. Make sure you subscribe to my newsletter to get the latest guides and workflows. Let's start with ideation and requirements. This is where most people fail, because you don't just want to tell AI, design me an app. That will lead to a very generic UI. To lead the project properly, we need to force Claude to understand our exact requirements before we start with the design. You can use any other AI chat model, but Claude is so good at this that I'm not using anything else. So starting with Claude, we're gonna drop the requirements that we have. You can give it just an idea or a full requirements document. For this video, I'm gonna be building an app for pet care, something to keep track of your pets, their health, their habits, their vet visits. I said I want to build an app for pet care. Ask me as many questions as necessary to have a complete requirements document. You can give it here your target audience or your requirements, anything you want. But the crucial part is tell it to ask you as many questions as necessary to build a complete requirements document. And Claude is so good at this that it will ask you questions in batches, and each batch of questions will rely on the previous answers. It's like a guided experience to get you started with your project. So it said here it's gonna go through this step by step, starting with the big picture. All you have to do is select your answers and move on to the next question. Now it recorded my answers and it's going ahead with new questions. It's gonna keep doing that until it has all of the information that it needs to create that requirements document. Now it's giving me the third batch of questions. And again, more questions. I'm loving this. Now it understood my answers and it's giving me more questions for clarity. Now it's asking me about the UI and the styling for the design direction. Okay, now it's giving me the last round of questions. And there we go. It created a complete document that I can download and modify, and it includes all of the requirements that I need to kick off this project. It gave me target audience and personas, core features, all of the details for each feature. Now what you're gonna have to do here is go through this in detail and modify anything that doesn't make sense to you or anything that deviates from your core goal. You can do the edits manually, or you can chat with Claude back and forth to nail down all of your vision inside of this document. But this is a great starting point. Now once you're happy with the document, here are a few things that I usually generate just to bring more clarity around what this is gonna look like and how many pages I need. To do that, I usually ask for a flowchart or a user journey and a sitemap. That way I will know what screens are required and what the structure of the app looks like. I'm gonna say create a user journey map, and to make this even more accurate, every time you ask it to generate something, tell it to ask you questions first. Okay, now here it gave me an interactive journey map that starts from discovery and through the whole journey of the user signing up and converting into a premium subscription. And now to round off our requirements package, we need a sitemap. I said create a sitemap for the whole app and ask me any necessary questions first. You see here, instead of it making some decisions, it's gonna ask me those questions for me to make the decisions. See, if I didn't say ask me questions first, it was gonna make all of these decisions on its own. But I'm the manager here. I make the decisions. There we go. It gave me a chart here with the legend at the top, and all of the modules that we're going to be building. And each one includes all of the details that we agreed upon at the beginning. You can download all of these documents that Claude generated into your project folder to keep it organized. And now we have enough requirements to start with the design. All right, now we have a strong requirements document, and here's where most people get stuck, moving from text to a visual layout, or from requirements into a blank Figma canvas. Let me show you how to get the perfect UI every time. Now, at any point, you can ask Claude to generate a reference UI screen for you during your ideation phase to kind of get a feel of what the UI will look like. I said create the homepage UI based on all the requirements. I do this step just to make sure that my requirements are solid and exactly what I want. So if I see a UI here that I don't like or that has something missing, I can tell it to adjust that and to adjust the requirements document based on my feedback. I find this step crucial for maximum alignment. And we're going to move into Figma in a bit, but this design is just as a reference, as a direction. And there we go. It gave me a UI for a web app. And this is a misconnection that I wasn't aware of at the beginning because I wanted a mobile first design. But I did say that I want a web app, so it went with a desktop first design. So that's something that I'm gonna have to fix now before moving on into the design. And you should definitely go through the whole design, make sure that everything is there, make sure that it didn't create anything that you didn't need. Okay, I gave it a few comments. I said I want this to be a mobile first UI, and I want the UI to be based on the pet profile so that the user can switch between profiles. And I said change the requirements document accordingly. Now that I have a visual feel of what it will look like, I can adjust the requirements to reflect my vision. And there we go. It did all the changes. It gave me a new document for the requirements and a new screen for the UI. And it applied the changes perfectly. I can see now that I have a pet profile at the top, which is exactly what I was looking for. Now that I'm happy with the direction, I'm gonna go into Figma to start working on the project. For this step, I'm gonna be using the UX Pilot plugin. They have a new agent that is so capable, it can do anything in Figma. It's called Nodi. This agent will help me build the whole UI for this app. I'm gonna start with designing the homepage first, and then from there, I'll branch out into the rest of the pages and the onboarding. So I'm gonna go back to Claude and I'm gonna ask for a detailed prompt that I can give to Nodi. I said, give me a detailed prompt to build the homepage UI with a UI generator. And there we go. It gave me a long prompt that includes every single detail for this UI. And it's all based on my requirements. So by giving this prompt to Nodi, it's gonna have every detail that I need, and it will not generate anything that I didn't ask for. So I'm just gonna click copy at the top, and I'll paste it here. You can also give it a screenshot to reference, but I'm just gonna give it the text here and see how close it gets to the UI that Claude gave me. And now the agent is gonna figure out all the steps that are needed to build this UI inside of Figma. And there we go, it generated the full homepage UI for me, and it looks exactly like what we got out of Claude. And of course, the UI generated with Nodi here is completely well structured for a Figma file for editing and layout properties with auto layout, and the flow is all correct. You can modify it manually if you want, or you can ask Nodi for any changes that you'd like to see. And I can see that it followed the instructions super accurately. The UI looks almost identical to what we got with Claude, but it's in your Figma file and it's completely editable. Now, for example, I don't like the icons here. I want them to be actual icons and not emojis. So I'm gonna select this section. I said change the icons to vector and not emoji. And there we go. It gave me vector icons here that are fully replaceable or editable. These are SVG icons. Now perform all of the changes that you need for your homepage to have a solid homepage. And once you have that, you can then start doing the same thing we did, but for the rest of the pages. Get the prompt from Claude and build it with Nodi. Alright, here are the rest of the screens. Everything looks great. But if you're working solo or working with a team, there's a dark side to any AI-generated UI, which is the layers and the components that are used in this UI. You can see here, all the layers are not properly named, and there are no components to be reused. Any developer would hate this. A professional designer uses design systems and components. So we're gonna sort this out with AI. We're gonna ask Nodi to instantly clean this entire file and build a design system and turn these chaotic layers into reusable components. I said rename all the layers appropriately and convert the main components into Figma components. And I didn't select anything. I'm just gonna let it work on the whole document. And there we go, it's done. It went through and renamed 693 layers and frames. It's breaking down everything that it did here. And now if I look at the layers panel here, you can see that it's using all of these components inside each frame and everything is named properly. Every single element here has a proper name that represents what it is. And that's the best way to have a design. It's structured properly and using reusable components. Now it created a component library page for me here, but I want to go further and get it to create a design system. I said move the component library to a different page and create a design system that includes the components. So it's gonna know to create a new page inside of my project, and I want to see a full design system with the components that we have here. That way you make sure that your handoff is perfect. And there we go. We now have a design system page, and it includes all of the components that are used in the design. You can see everything here is a component. Nodi has the ability to reuse these same components in any design that you generate from now on. That's a perfect structure for a Figma document. You have components and you have UI screens and everything is named properly and you're reusing components all without doing any manual work. Now we have a perfectly organized professional Figma file, but we're not gonna just stop with a static design. If you need to hand off this project to a developer or if you need to validate your idea, you're going to need to have a working prototype and not just a Figma prototype because you're going to need it to be fully interactive to reflect all of the interactions that you want in your product. And to do that, I'm going to give my full UI to Claude for it to build me a prototype that is online that anyone can test and use. So I'm going to take a screenshot of my full UI here. And back in Claude, all I have to say is build an interactive prototype for this UI. And I'm doing this in Claude, not Claude Code. Because I only want a prototype, I only want a front-end design that is interactive. But if you're looking to actually build this app for yourself, you can go to Claude Code and give it all these instructions. And there we go, we now have a fully working prototype. You can go through this and see if everything works, but the UI looks exactly like the design in Figma. Now, if you want to send this to someone, you can host it on Netlify for free. All you have to do is download the code and then upload it on Netlify, and then you'll get a link that you can share with anyone. And if you want to do some user testing, you can also create a user survey. Just ask Claude to generate a survey based on this UI to test quantitative and qualitative data to get actionable feedback, and it will give you a survey that is crafted specifically for your product. And just like that, we went from a blank canvas to a live prototype without doing any manual work. AI did the heavy lifting, but we directed the logic, and we built a complete professional design package. So far, I haven't been able to come up with a good structure of a Figma file using AI, but now that's all doable with Nodi. It managed my whole file, my components, and the naming, and all of the assets, and that makes this workflow great for professional environments and teams. Let me know if you have any questions. I always answer everything down in the comments. And if this workflow was helpful to you, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter. You will receive a breakdown of each workflow that I share on this YouTube channel. I share full guides with prompts and everything that you need. And make sure you subscribe here on YouTube to stay ahead of everyone else in the industry. I'll see you in the next one.